Okay, picture this. You're sitting in an exam hall, clock's ticking, right? There's that one impossible question just staring back at you. And the pressure, it feels huge. We've all been there, I think. And maybe, just for a second, that little voice pops up like, isn't there a shortcut? You might think, what's the harm if I just glance at my notes just for a second? But what actually happens if you get caught? Is it just, I don't know, a little warning? Or could the consequences be way, way more serious than you'd ever guess? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty important, the often serious and surprisingly far-reaching consequences of cheating in exams. Our mission today, we're going to unpack some really interesting insights from a Go Student article. It doesn't just define cheating or explain why students might do it. It lays out the whole range of what can happen. We're talking everything from getting a 0 on one test right up to maybe even being banned from university. So yeah, this deep dive is all about getting you well-informed and fast on something that really impacts students, parents, and, well, academic integrity itself. Okay, so before we get into the consequences, the deep end, let's set the stage. What exactly are we talking about when we say cheating?
Our source gives us a pretty solid definition. It says it's the act of obtaining advantages or rewards without following the rules that apply to others. Basically getting an unfair advantage. Could be a monopoly. Could be in a really important school exam.
Yeah. And what's really insightful, I think, is that the article goes straight into the why. What's driving this. It connects cheating pretty strongly to the pressure cooker of rising competition these days. And this whole idea of merit. Students feel this massive pressure, don't they? Get the top grades, secure that university place. And for some, cheating starts to look like an easy solution.
Yeah.
And that competitive drive. It can kind of breed this all is fair mentality. You know, where some people start thinking only the result counts. The article even draws a parallel to, like, famous athletes caught doping. It suggests this thinking isn't just in schools. Then there's family pressure. That phrase, no room for failure.
Oof. Yeah.
It suggests that for some students, fraud feels like the only way to live up to expectations. That no room for failure idea, wow, that really paints a picture, doesn't it? A student feeling totally cornered. What else did the source mention as a reason?
Well, there's also peer influence, or maybe even just plain rebellion. A student might cheat just to, fit in with a certain group of friends who are doing it.
Right. Or
maybe it's about pushing back to rebel or challenge the school system itself. And what's really interesting is how these things often combine, It's not just one thing. It can be this perfect storm of university pressure, family expectations, maybe peer stuff too. And suddenly cheating seems like the only way out for some students.
Okay, so with all these intense pressures, pushing down ambition, fitting in, rebellion, all of it, it's kind of funny then that the source pivots to the really practical stuff. How people actually do it, the methods. And they're careful, they say they're not encouraging it.
Right.
But they definitely list some well-known classics that might ring a bell. Things like using your scientific calculator to store formulas or definitions, though as they point out, that's not much help in your French exam. Or, the classic cheat sheet, hidden behind a water bottle label, tucked in a pencil case. I definitely remember hearing about those. Thankfully, never tried the water bottle one myself. And then there's using your phone wallpaper like a notepad. You just pretend you're checking the time. These are all pretty old school methods, aren't they? But the Go Student piece also talks about a big shift, especially during all that time with remote learning and school isolation. Online tools became the new frontier for cheating.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We're talking about people working together secretly in chat groups like on Snapchat or WhatsApp. Some students apparently even paid more advanced candidates to actually sit the exams for them.
Wow.
And for those online tests, just having a second computer open to Google things quickly, that was apparently quite common.
And this brings up a really key point, doesn't it? Whatever the method, online, offline, sneaky. What's the actual risk involved? Our source really hammers this home. These tricks, whether they're online or face-to-face, are incredibly risky. Full stop.
Right.
They count as evidence of malpractice and cheating in exams. And the bottom line is the cheating student still faces the same risk of punishment. Just because you found a clever new way doesn't make it okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes online stuff leaves even more of a trail.
Exactly. So if these tricks are incredibly risky, let's get specific for everyone listening. What happens right away if a student gets caught, say, in the classroom during a test? The article says the impact can seriously damage his or her results, as well as reputation or even place at the school. So you could be looking at getting a 0 on their assessment. That's pretty immediate. Also, contact home, maybe detentions, or even in serious cases, exclusion from the school.
Mm.
It's not just one bad grade. It's a mark on your record that can be tough to shake off.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source makes a really interesting point. It says that parents or guardians often sign an agreement with the school right at the start, specifically promising against malpractice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it shows just how seriously schools view this, right from day one throughout a student's whole time there. It's like a basic expectation. And breaking that, it has a direct personal impact on your standing, your relationship with the school. It's really a breach of trust, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, that breach of trust idea really resonates. It sets a difficult tone moving forward. But things can get even more serious, right? Especially when we're talking about the major stuff, the national qualifications such as GCSEs, A-levels, and exams at university.
Yeah.
But for listeners maybe not familiar, these are the big government-recognized exams in the UK. The stakes are really high.
Definitely.
And the process, if you're caught, it kicks off fast. An invigilator spots something, they make a verbal and written report, and boom, an investigation starts.
And what's striking then is the sheer range of possible penalties. It really depends on the seriousness of the situation and the exam or school. At the sort of lower end, maybe for an internal school test, you might get a reprimand, a formal warning. But for those national qualifications, it can escalate quite dramatically. You could be looking at being removed from the course entirely or maybe even losing the whole diploma. The article says sometimes resulting in having to restart completely.
Wow, restarting.
Yeah. Then there's immediate contact with the exams regulator, the JCQ. They oversee most of the big exam boards like AQA, 8Excel. A very common outcome is getting an ungraded mark, a U. That basically means no awarded mark, grade, GCSE, A-level, or points for that university course. Like you never even sat the exam in that subject. And it can go further. A student might face an actual exam ban. Sometimes that means being barred from taking any national exams for several years.
Several years?
Yes. And in the most severe cases, though, the article notes this is infrequent. It could even be a ban on enrolling into a higher education institution for 5 years. That's a massive roadblock for a young person's plans, obviously.
Wow, yeah, that's a really heavy list of potential outcomes. And something that genuinely surprised me in the source material was this statistic. Apparently, exam malpractice is actually on the rise. A law school reported an 11% increase in malpractice reports back in 2019. And get this, it wasn't just students. It included teachers and even schools helping students cheat.
Yeah, that's quite alarming.
What does that say about the pressure in the whole system, you know?
Well, that 11% figure, it's more than just a number, isn't it? It really suggests this problem might be becoming more systemic. It's not just isolated incidents of students making bad choices.
Yeah.
If teachers and schools are involved. It really makes you question the pressures within the whole academic environment. What does that level of pressure do to the sort of fundamental trust in the system? It hints that maybe the intense competition is starting to erode the integrity of the system itself, not just affecting individual students.
That is a really sobering thought. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. There's a specific urban legend that the source tackles head on, one I've definitely heard myself. It's the belief that if a student gets caught cheating in an academic exam, they'll likely be barred from taking any other official test, including the one for their UK driving license. It's like this ultimate cautionary tale, you know?
Ah, yes, the driving license myth. Well, I can clear this up for you today. The Go Student article is really explicit. Today, I can officially tell you that this is an urban legend.
Okay, so it's not true.
Not true. And the reason is simple. As the driving license is not linked with our education certification system, it is not affected by the sanctions. So yeah, thankfully, messing up an A-level won't stop you from learning to drive.
Okay, well, that's probably a relief for some people to hear, but there's a but, isn't there? A flip side.
There is, absolutely. And it's an important one. Connecting this back to the bigger picture, the article finishes that point with a really crucial thought. It says that cheating in an exam and getting caught can change your mindset to all other exams you go on to sit for the worse.
Ah, okay.
So even if the official penalties don't cross over into things like driving tests, the psychological impact can still be really significant. It might erode your self-confidence, your trust in your own abilities, and maybe you lose that genuine satisfaction that comes from, actually earning success yourself.
Right. So what a deep dive that was. We've really covered a lot of ground. We looked at how cheating is defined, all those different pressures, intense pressures that can lead students towards it. We talked about the risks, even with those classic methods, let alone the new online tricks. We saw the immediate consequences in school, damage results, reputation, trust. And then the really serious long-term penalties for those crucial national qualifications, like potential bans from university. I think it's pretty clear the risks really do seem to outweigh any quick win you might think you're getting. So thinking about the bigger picture then, what does all this really mean? Beyond the official stuff, the grades, the sanctions, what does the act of cheating and getting caught actually teach someone? About things like integrity, perseverance, about the real value maybe of achieving something through your own genuine effort. That's definitely something to think about, isn't it? Long after the exam results are out.